The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
You know, there are some times on the podcast where I just want to let the music play. I feel really bad for interrupting that, but we do have a podcast to do. We have a lot to get through. So unfortunately, that is it for the time being. I can't even give credit as well for the artist and song because, as you know, it is our music quiz on the podcast every week. We'll come back to that later, but as I say, on with the show. 9 Years Podcast, everyone. Nick Draper here, joined by Stuart Deakins, and this week we have christened the show, titled, baptised, I don't know. We've called it Bring It to the Table. We have just literally asked, literally, of course, not figuratively, literally asked for your questions on everything and anything to do with AFC Wimbledon. So we're going to spend the majority of our hour this week answering your questions. It is a fans club. It is therefore a fans podcast. It is therefore your show. We are listening. We are taking on board your comments and your questions. Before we do that, Stu, though, and don't worry, all the usual will be here as well, our game, and I'll look ahead to the Portsmouth game on Saturday. But before we do that, a very quick look at the defeat to Plymouth. Last week I labelled it the inevitable defeat to Plymouth. We all thought it was going to happen. It did happen. Deja vu, Groundhog Day, all that, all over again. Broken record, stuck on repeat. Exactly the same as last season against Plymouth, where we are playing them at an opportune time, and of course we just, for whatever reason, can't seem to find it in ourselves to attack them. We let them build up their confidence. They got to half-time 0-0. They, of course, scored the only goal of the game. Freddie Ladapo was always going to score, I guess. Hindsight 2020, I suppose. But, I mean, why? Neil Ardley, he said confidence. There is an element of truth in that, I suppose, because we're going into the game with 6 defeats in 8. So the players won't be particularly confident, but we can attack teams. It's not illegal for us to attack teams, or is it?
Well, yeah, two teams on Saturday not playing with confidence. That's why they're down the bottom, isn't it? You know, Plymouth hadn't won all season, and you think sometimes it's like I've said this so many times before. We're so scared to lose. It just paralyses our players. We saw it Saturday. You know, you could tell the longer it stayed 0-0, the more Plymouth were growing confidence, the more we got edgy, because actually a point would have been decent at Plymouth, to be fair. We're not good enough to hold on to leads or just to kill games off. We can't do it. You know, it shows. It's interesting. I was looking at how many games since we've drawn. When you look at the sequences and stuff like that, it's actually 5 away games now since we've actually had a draw. We either win or we lose. There's no draws. So how we thought we were going to go to Plymouth and just hold out for that goalless draw was beyond me. But we're scared to lose. It paralyses us. And you have to be honest and say, we probably got what we deserved in the end. And, it puts us in a bit of trouble again.
I think a lot of the issues you've touched on there, we're going to be talking about a lot, I think, on this week's show as we take questions from the listeners. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. All week, as we know, in the fallout to the Bradford defeat and the Plymouth defeat, there's lots and lots of talk. There is lots of ill feeling, ill sentiment towards the club at the moment, especially lots of people who want Neil Ardley out. It's not a happy place. We're going to touch on all these issues, including, like you say, perhaps being scared to lose at the moment, which is bizarre because that's all we do. The only thing I want to touch about the Plymouth game for the time being then is the goal. Can you explain how we've conceded such a poxy goal?
Well, it's just not paying attention, isn't it? You know, if you're going to go...
Not doing what, sorry?
It's not paying attention. Oh, dear. Got me. Well done, 1-0. I think it was. If you look at the goal, we get done on a short corner, but it looks like Perrington and Watson, whoever was going to pick up who, it looks like either of them was going to pick up Lapadou. And in the end, what happened is that they both, for a split second, they both went for the same ball. Then Perrington dropped off. Watson went to the short corner, but by then he was out of the game. And because Perrington had made the initial movement with Watson, Lapadou had just got on the back of him. And in the end, it was just such a simple goal, and it's just paying attention. If you are going to pick up points away from home, you've got to switch on the whole game, and it was just such a basic goal. And I suppose it's more frustrating when you see how easy it was for us to be undone. It just makes you even more frustrated that we've gone there. I suppose the frustration for me is we've gone away from home and not scored. And that's 2 games now against... Sorry, we've had 3 games against the teams below us, and in the last 2 we've failed to score. That's concerning. You need to be scoring goals because you put an amazing amount of pressure on your defence.
Not to forget that the Oxford game where we did score, we scored with 2 of our only 3 shots on target. No, I tell a lie. 2 of our only 3 shots, full stop. Our only 2 shots on target. We created nothing basically against Oxford, but that's been and gone, and we've talked it to death. Just a big, I guess, 320 odd fans travelled down to Plymouth, which is a hell of an effort for a couple of reasons. One, ignoring our form going into the game. When you go to Plymouth, we've been there many, many times over the past few seasons. It's not really a new ground for many people, so it's not particularly attractive. It's at a time of the season which isn't the most attractive time of the season, really. October, realistically, it's a bit dead this time of year. And I do wonder, and our form, of course, I do wonder, it'd be interesting, how many people went because they, many weeks and months ago, they booked up train travel, they booked up hotels, whatever it is. If they had the opportunity to get all their money back and decide not to travel down, how many would have taken that option? Because I think quite a few would have done. But anyway, lots of problems as well, actually, in terms of the reaction those fans gave the team afterwards, wasn't there? There's lots of booing, very, very unhappy people, and that's spread through social media, hasn't it? It's not been a pleasant few days. I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
We obviously we had George, who goes to every game, bless him, and he said, Niwali, I think, probably went a little bit over to the fans as far as he wanted, as far as he thought he could, and didn't really get a good reaction. And it's a shame, isn't it? I suppose your away fans tend to be more vocal than your home fans. I suppose it's because if you've just spent 4 or 5 hours travelling, and you've got another 4 or 5 hours to get home, you want to feel your team's at least given their best shot. And I think from what I heard about the game, and I saw 10 minutes of highlights. How I thought I got 10 minutes of highlights, I will never know. So well done whoever to edit that. I think at one point there was a game of head tennis that went on for about half a minute. The ball went nowhere, but I think they just had to feel as much as they could because nothing really happened. And I think that's what it is. I think we'd accept at the moment we go down fighting, but we're going down a little bit scared and apprehensive and all those things that you do, and that's something that's got to change. And at the moment, it doesn't seem to be.
Oh, there's so many things. So many things I want to talk about. I spoke for long enough on the Love Sport Radio this Sunday about it.
You did an extra half an hour.
We extended the show for an extra 30 minutes to talk it all through. I mean, there's so many elements to this. I guess we're going to touch on a lot of them with these questions that we've got. I'm looking. So we asked for questions on Twitter and Facebook. Lots and lots of you replied, which was great. So we're going to attempt to tackle them all. Time might work against us. We shall see how we get on. But Stu, let's start. I'm just going to go to Facebook and go through the list from top to bottom, just so we don't miss anyone as much as we can. If we don't get to your question or we miss it, please let us know. It's not deliberate. It just hasn't come up on our feed for whatever reason. Let's start with Dave Abbott, and we'll start off gently. Dave Abbott on Facebook asked, is the disconnect between fans and club due to being in a tougher League One, or would we have reached this point eventually anyway after such a quick rise?
Yeah, is it a different? I suppose you breaking down the question. Is it a more difficult League One? I don't know. If I'm being truthful, I I think there's a Sunderland that's going away with it. Charlton, Peterborough spent a bit of money. I want to say it's a difficult League One, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think any more difficult than last season's. Disconnect or the level, yeah. Hey, look, at some point you're always going to hit that level where, as a fan-owned club, where can you get to? What's the I think League One was always going to be the ceiling until we could get a new ground, and that's on the horizon now. So I think everything's happening off the field as well as it could be. Potentially, I think there's a few issues on that. But I don't know, Nick. Do you think this is a more difficult League One than last year or the year before that?
Not particularly. I think we're a worse team than either, and a worse squad than either of the previous 2 seasons. But Dave's point, the disconnect between the fans and the club is interesting because he's linking that purely with, I assume, going from the question, linking the disconnect between the fans and the club purely with what's going on the pitch.
Yeah,
I tend to disagree. I think atmosphere at Kings Meadow is, yes, a reaction to what's happening, but also I think it's a combination of factors, to be honest with you. Like we've said many times before, I think the stadium is one issue. I think we just want to get red and go and leave Kings Meadow. And no one looks forward to going to Kings Meadow. The quick rise is a great point. I thought when we got promoted into the Football League, I thought it was too early for us at the time. I thought it was a big step. I didn't think we were quite ready for it, structurally as a club behind the scenes and what have you. We've since then gone up another level. I think we've struggled. We've kept our heads above water in terms of admin and all that business and infrastructure at the club and academy and members of staff and all that business. I think that's the best phrase for it. We've literally just kept our heads above water. But you can't keep doing it the way we're doing it without things being stretched. And I think one of those things is people are getting more discerning. Is that fair?
Mm. Yeah.
Mark Hendricks makes this point. He thinks the Milton Keynes beating Milton Keynes 2-0 was job done in the mind of sort of the club and everything like that. I wonder if it was in the fans as well. And when we were rising through the leagues, there was a cause. We were still fighting this cause and this injustice of having our league play stolen away. And now we've got into League One and we're seen as, professional club, top 3 leagues, what have you. We start to think now we have to start to act like it a bit more than perhaps we are.
Possibly. Disconnect is an interesting one, isn't it? I think I've had a lot of different thoughts ever since the Plymouth game. I think the Plymouth defeat really, if you look on social media, I know people say it's just social media, but we have to understand social media plays a big part in everybody's not life.
It's how people communicate.
Yeah, and I think it isn't just a few people. I don't think it is a few keyboard warriors or anything like that. I think there are a few people that have turned, possibly from maybe being sympathetic towards the management team to now going, I'm not so sure. But I've changed my mind so many times over the weekend. I think naturally when you lose a game, you naturally think, it's time for a change. And then I keep thinking, no, but Joe Watt done an excellent job. Is he the fall guy? Is it the players? But then the manager recruits the players. But the disconnect for me is a massive one because I think the biggest frustration I have is the lack of communication. I think, we've lost 79 games. Okay, that's not good. That's not good. And I look at the program on the weekend. I believe I think it was either the Oxford game or the Bradford game, and there was a story about referees from Eric, moaning about referees and the standard of referees, and it felt to me a little bit of a smokescreen, as if like, well, the reason we're not doing so well this year is because we've been on the rough end of a few decisions. Total rubbish, in my opinion. I don't believe that at all. I think the refs are just poor for everybody, and we've had some really shocking referees against us that give us decisions. You've gone, wow, how have we got that? But I think it's just a communication. I think fans, and I'm going to speak on my personal levels. I can't speak for everyone else, but I don't like being kidded to maybe think I'm seeing a game that's different to everyone else. So when I see things, the Plymouth report after the Plymouth game was, done in an unlucky way, or we just got done by a single goal. It was just not really. It was trying to convince me I'd seen a different game, and I think that goes over to Neil Ardie as well, because the communication from Neil Ardie's not been great. But I think he needs advice. I think he needs guidance. I think he needs to get out in front of fans, because at the moment a lot of fans are turning on him for what he's saying. But I'd be very convinced to meet the manager, call an ad hoc one, get him in front of the fans, because he is an articulate person. I think we're not seeing that he's hurting as much, or even that he's being supported. And my sort of mood has changed a little bit to actually thinking it's time for him maybe to leave, to actually be thinking there's a lot of other stuff that's actually not helping him.
Should we move on?
Next question.
There's so much that you raised there and so much to unpick there, but I have a feeling that these are all going to come out in future questions and things like that. Dave Abbott has also asked, will the season of The Same Dross be enough to send you over the edge and start watching musicals instead? I don't think it would take much for Stu to go and watch a musical, Dave, to be honest with you.
Hey, look, I've not been to a musical for ages, because I've been married and had a child in the last 2 years, so that unfortunately doesn't come cheap. But I will hope to go back to musicals soon. Hey, look, if I had the money, I would. It's a shame, isn't it? You know, I had this intention of going to as many away games as I could do and stuff like that. But at the moment, the team is not inspiring me to spend a whole day travelling up to Blackpool's or Plymouth's or Accrington's, and I sense that'll be a lot of my friends have also been very similar like that. So if I had the money, I would go to a musical or do something else on a Saturday. Home game's fine, got a season ticket, live with that. But at the moment, I just want the season to really. If I could fast forward this season and you could tell what position we finish and I could just get on with it and let's start again, then I'll take it like a shot.
I think we all would, to be honest with you. There you go. David Berzan, he asks, "What's your favourite current player chant or song, and what are some of your all-time favourites?"
Yeah. Do you want to go first on this one? Because I know you liked a certain song, didn't you? I heard you try to sing a song with the word. I think trying was that it.
My perfect, flawless singing. It was beautiful. There's only one song we have really for a player at the moment, and that's Dead Gioshallarja.
Yeah,
that's the only song we've got to. Rhythm of a Dancer.
And Joe, it's a really good question that was asked, because it actually opens up another angle to that. Is why do we not have many songs for players? This squad to me is probably the most disconnected squad I've known. So it's not a surprise that no one's really creating any songs, because we just don't really. There's no one that stands out. You know, I would say my favourite one at the moment is the Liam Trotter one, which goes to Only Fools and Horses. But that was a very sporadic song, wasn't it?
Only Fools and Horses?
Was it Only Fools and Horses? Yes, it was.
You mean the YMCA thing?
Oh, no, it was YMCA, wasn't it? That shows how long since I heard it. Yeah, the YMCA. Sorry,
I'm not quite sure how you've got those two mixed up, to be honest with you.
Well, it's the old Trotter thing, the old Del Boy, isn't it?
Yeah, but... okay. Say nothing.
But yeah, and not many people may have heard that, but it was something that was sung at a man of match. The Dead Gioshallarja one, I hear it sung by a few people behind the goal, and I don't really get it. It's one of those songs you think it's not going to take off because it hasn't. But no, it's just there's no songs.
Well, there is no songs. No, you're right. It's a disconnect. We don't really, and a lot of that to do with relationships with players, because again, loanees are in there that we haven't really connected with. We've got two centre midfielders that nobody particularly likes. I know you said the Trotter song there, but I think that's horrendously tongue-in-cheek at the end of last season.
Yes.
Because people were starting to feel sorry for him, I think, in some respects, because he's a really nice guy and what have you, but he just doesn't do it, does nothing for us on the pitch. Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, we had other players. I mean, Andy Bartram will still get his name sung, I think, purely because he's a player that has a song. Is he our only remaining member of the team that got promoted? It might well be.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Joe McDonald might have been with us, but I'm not sure. He wasn't in the squad, was he? Kelly Roos, James Shea, and what have you. So that's probably why. Otherwise, yeah, Kwesi Appiah has a song, but no one sings it anymore because no one likes Kwesi anymore. So we've got problems. It is actually really bad. You're right. There is the biggest disconnect I think I could remember between a group of players. It's a big worry. In terms of some of your all-time favourites?
I've got a few, actually. There was a couple. I used to love a Jason Ewell one. Giving the ball in a yard of grass, that one. Mm-hmm. I used to, Michael Hughes, imagine a little. Yeah. That's just because Michael Hughes was one of my all-time favourite players. But I did love the Neil Shipley song, the old ship.
Yeah, that one came to mind. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's a few. If I was going to put, I used to love the Michael Hughes one just because we sung it a lot because he gave us a lot to sing about.
Yeah, Michael Hughes was a great player. Jason Yule was one of my favourite, if not my favourite all-time Wimbledon player. Other ones, I would say the big John Hartson one when he first joined.
Yeah, there's a few versions of that one.
Big fat Johnny Hartson, yeah. Bless him, but a great legendary player. He used to play for Luton as well. I might just throw that one in there. And Celtic as well. I might just throw that one in there as well. Yeah, that's probably a bit... I mean, do you remember the Andrew Martin song? I always remember that one. It was only ever aired like once, I think, when we signed him.
Was that just due to his hair?
That was due to his hair, yeah. The Jesus Christ superstar signed from Dulwich on a free transfer.
And let's not forget about Chris Gell as well.
Yeah, but again...
Sung that.
That's just a rip-off, though. I mean, that's just...
Yeah.
I know the Jason Yule one was as well, to be honest with you, but... Gel seemed a little bit more of a rip-off because it was originally sung for Ryan Giggs.
True.
Chris Gel wasn't quite the same player as
But then also, if you also remember back to one of my favourite centre-halves, and you'll probably laugh because you think about centre-halves, you think about Jason Goodliff and all that lot, was Jamie Stewart with the Everyone Needs a Nutter. Because it was just so apt for him because he was an absolute fruitcake.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So, there's quite a few songs, isn't there? And it's actually quite sad, isn't it? It's a great question because it's actually quite sad to think how few songs we have now. And, yeah, like I say, I think we sort of know a reason why.
Yeah, I think we adapted the Vieira song, though, very well for originally John Harley and then Joe Sherin. We did a good job there. He used to play for Scum, but now he's Wimbledon.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good one. Anyway. Mark Sturgis, from the current AFCW era, who has been the most influential player? So when Mark says the current AFCW era, I'm guessing, I'm taking that just to mean 2002, post-2002. I don't think it means like the last 5 years, if you know what I mean. I'm thinking the whole era of AFC Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And I think there's an easy answer. I think it's the easiest answer we might have all show, I think.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we had certain players that come in at certain levels that needed to come in to do certain jobs, wasn't it? You might think about the same player I'm thinking about, but it was one that we signed from a lowly Grays Athletic.
Oh, yeah, in one, yeah.
Probably the best 10 grand we spent. Like I say, we say about transfer fees this season. Yeah, the best 10 grand we probably spent. And that's Mr. Kedwell's.
Danny Kedwell, all over. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Came into, at the time, a Conference South team that was just hitting a bit of a wobble in the league. And then he was just unplayable from that point for the next 3 seasons. Got us into the Football League. Honestly, I can't think I can genuinely pick anybody else.
There's a few that maybe run him, not close. Well, close. I mean, you think about Sammy Moores, who had think about what he did with us in terms of that central midfield area. I think back to Andy Frampton, players like that who joined us, and Adam Bennett. I think just purely for the professionalism they brought us. If you think about the early AFCW days, we had people that played for pub teams, didn't we? There's certain signings that I think. Just Jason Goodliff, if we got Jason Goodliff a couple of years earlier, Matt Everard, again, was the one that we got a couple of years earlier. But I think for the biggest impact to get us back in the Football League, Kedwell was, massive.
Marco Cura asks, who invented the skip? I don't know who invented the bloody skip. Bobby Moore, I don't bloody know, do I? That's all I'm going to say, Marco.
Random question.
Yeah, but you don't watch the show that comes from, so I think that's probably gone well over your head.
Probably.
Imagine. Yeah. Robert Boyce, why are we sticking to rigid 4-4-2? Why do Soars and Trotter... Oh, Trotter. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore, Stu. When I see his name on the team sheet, I die inside. I cannot watch him play for us anymore. Soars, I give a little bit more leeway to, because I think he does a little bit more for me, I think, in just protecting the back foot. I don't know what Trotter does. I've never known what Trotter does.
And the thing is, you've seen Trotter quite a lot this season.
Oh, don't get me started.
The most 13 appearances, so the most starts by any woman player is our vice captain, Mr. Trotter.
As Liam Trotter. Oh my God, what a depressing thought. Anyway, and I'm not normally one to target an individual, but sometimes they bring it on themselves. So why do Swords and Trotter keep getting picked ahead of Wordsworth and Hartigan? King and Will Nightingale get dropped, but these two seem undroppable. We spent £100,000, but is our squad really better? Okay, there's loads to get into.
Loads there, isn't there? Yeah.
There's so much. I'm not even halfway through, to be honest with you. Let's take this point by point then. Why did Swords and Trotter Traws and Sotter, keep getting picked ahead of Wordsworth and Hartigan? Because as you touched on earlier, Neil is a manager that I think is afraid to lose, like you said, and that's transferred into the players and the way we go about games. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think because the natural changes for those two players are more attacking-minded players, but then it goes back to the 4-4-2, doesn't it? I've said for ages that we could probably play a 3-5-2. I don't necessarily think our fullbacks are our. Perrington's had a decent season, but I wouldn't say he's the first name on the sheet, on the team sheet. And I think you could probably quite easily get away with a 3-5-2 and play three centre halves. I think it'd be a lot stronger. And then that way you can put a more attacking player in midfield. If he's not going to drop Liam Trotter and Saws, then play with an attacking player in with them at least. But this year, he hasn't wanted to. He's not wanted to shy away from his 4-4-2, no matter what. And normally he has, hasn't he? He started off with 3-4-3s and quickly changed his mind. That this year he's sticking to his guns and it's 4-4-2, and that's the way it's going to be.
Do you know, I think it sounds ridiculous. I think Anthony Hartigan's too good to play for us. I think the what he will bring you is a level above pretty much everybody else in our team. And I just don't think we get out of him what we need to at this level. Does that sound crazy? But I think the sort of passes he can play and the vision he has for passes and keeping the ball and keeping possession, I think could be lost on the players around him.
Difficult one, isn't it? I do worry at the moment for Anthony Hartigan's progression because, yes, we could argue when he came in last year at 17, how many 17-year-olds really play a lot of games in League One or League Two? Not a lot. But he's now his second year with us, and he's not playing any games. And now he's 18 and he needs games. And you've got a kid who's got lots of energy, a lot to give, and we're just sitting on a bench or a plastic seat. You have to surely get to January and go, if we ain't going to play him, why sit him on a bench? Get him out, get him to play games. Is he too good for us? I don't know. It's a question. I think, yes, West Ham, he was excellent. But is he going to be able to... There's so many questions about Andy Hartigan. We just don't know how good he is because we don't play him enough. And I suppose the flip question to that about Andy Hartigan is, do you want to bring him into what is at the moment a relegation-threatened team? Do you want to chuck him in there? Because, as I said to you, we look paralysed at the moment to play football. Well, he ain't going to do well in a team like that, is he?
Robert Boyce continues. He said, we spent 100 grand, but is our squad really better? I mean, he mentioned the point before that, about King and Will Nightingale have played for their places, whereas others seem to be undroppable. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a messy thing. I think you can probably suggest that the trust in Wordsworth and Hartigan isn't there. But when you've lost, what would you say, 7 out of the last 9? Why Trotter and Saws still could get that trust, I don't know. So the honest answer is, Robert, to that one, none of us can get inside Neil Ardley's head and answer that one. It's baffling to us. But anyway.
Yeah, what have you got to lose? We lost at home to Bradford. He made one change on Saturday, and that was Pinnock dropped for Bartram. He made one change to a team that had lost 6 out of the last 8. What's the worst you could do?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, I can't answer it. I can't get in the man's head. But what I can try and answer is the next one. We spent £100,000, but is our squad really better? In a word, no, our squad is worse. Taylor, Elliott, Parrott, Reeves, Fuller, Akinfenwa, all better than what we have at the moment, in my opinion. How many more losses till we look to change manager, as I can't see a win from upcoming fixtures? Well, for a start, can I just say this squad is the worst we've had in League One of the 3 squads we've put together for me. And we've talked about Neil getting recruitment wrong in the past. Well, I think actually, on reflection, I don't think he got recruitment wrong in that first season. Everyone said he did. He said he did. He came out and said he got it wrong because of negative influences in the dressing room. I think we just take that one and you work with it because for majority of the season, it got results. It got some fantastic performances. We had creativity in that team. We had attacking intent and purpose, and we've stripped the team of all of it, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, one of the things we have, you're right. You know, look at Harry Forrester, Dean Parrott, Lyle Taylor. I can imagine all difficult characters, and let's balance it. You know, Neil Hardy got arguably Lyle Taylor's best years out of him. It could be, you could say it's because he was in a decent team, he's matured. I think Neil Hardy has something to say with that. But he stripped everything out this summer. Darius, I can imagine, was a difficult character if it wasn't going well. But you're right, he stripped all of it this year. We went for a younger team. The scary thing now is this young team is absolutely shit scared of its own shadow. And we have no characters or leaders. I get fed up, keep going about Lyle Taylor, because people think I'm obsessed with him. But
you are obsessed with him, Stu.
Well,
I've seen the Instagram messages.
I see. I think it's because I see what we miss. I think I see what we miss. You know, we need that. We miss that character, that leader, that person who works hard. We miss so much from it, and I think we could have easily avoided that. I really do. But when I look at this current team, what player would run through a brick wall? Yeah, no player's going to do that. But the old proverbial.
Oh, that's accidental partridge, or you've channeled Richard Madeley there. That's brilliant.
No, but you know what I mean. Who would go to extra mile? Who would really who would really fight for your team? The only person I see at the moment is Deji. Probably Will Nightingale, but you know he isn't playing at the moment.
Scott Wagstaff, possibly.
Scott Wagstaff works hard. You know, he runs all day, but do I think he's that? Has he got a bit of needle? No, he's a bit nice. He's a nice gentleman. I've had a few chats with him. Lovely gentleman. But at the moment, I don't see us threatening to get out of the bottom 5 or 6 with the team we've got, because they're just too nice. And just to give you an argument against that, we are second at the moment in the fair play league, which tells you we don't get many bookings because we just don't. We don't even tackle wrong. we don't put tackles in. You know, it's a very nice team. It's a young team, isn't it? It's a very nice team. It's a Neil Hardy team.
It's a team in the reflection. Is that the right word? In the there's another the mould. So there we go. I knew I'd get there eventually.
15 bookings this year we got. So nearly won a game. It
reflects the club we've created. We're very nice.
Yes.
We don't have that edge about us. We did when we mentioned earlier, 2 names we've mentioned earlier. We did when we had Jamie Stewart and Danny Kedwell getting us into the Football League.
Well, yeah, the thing was, Jamie Stewart was just late with a lot of tackles because he was just too slow. Kedge just like beating people up.
But do you know what?
Loved it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it feeds into what you're saying there with the lack of leadership and stuff, feeds into sort of the next question. Because Robert's like, can't see a win from the upcoming fixtures. You've been looking at this. So Portsmouth top of the league, Blackpool away, Bristol Rovers away, Luton at home until the end of the month. They are tough games. Bristol Rovers looks like a big game. I'd rather have them at home, if I'm being honest with you. Blackpool's a tough place to go at the moment, despite the fact the stadium's empty. Portsmouth top of the league, and Luton are a very attacking team, but you know what? I don't think our fans will particularly like Luton because they've got that little edge about them which can upset teams.
Yeah, and but the thing is, Madge's got an edge about him as well. You showed me a Twitter post when he was geeing up his fans after the game against Oxford, and I must admit I was quite jealous because
I was very jealous because. But you know what? That's not an isolated one. I mean, he doesn't do it every week, obviously.
No,
but he's with similar situations in the past where the passion is just coming through him, and there's different ways to display passion, of course.
Yes.
But what fan is not going to love your manager reacting in that way?
Yeah. And the fans respond to it, don't they? And I think your players respond to it. But yeah, Pompey, I think when I looked at points per game away from, I think Pompey had 2.2 points away from home this season. Blackpool average at least a point, I think 1.5 from home games. Not a surprise because it's behind closed doors and they're probably more suited towards that lack of atmosphere in that stadium than anybody else. Bristol Rovers is the one that is their home form was terrible. I don't think they even get a point per game at home. So that's your one you're thinking is a potential. Well, did we go there last year? Or we didn't we? We had a few goal of season contenders last year.
Yeah, I think it was the first time that we'd won at Bristol Rovers. But
it was, wasn't it?
AFC Wimbledon that was. But look at the quality of the goals on that day from Cody McDonald and Harry Forrester.
Yeah. So, Bristol Rovers isn't normally a great place for us to go to get points, but they're not doing too well. And yeah, Luton's full of attacking flair, haven't they? Led by no other than, not led, but obviously Danny Hilton, who, well, I loved him I really liked him when he was at Wimbledon because he just didn't care about people. And he's filled in the same trait at Luton. So I think it's I think it's a tough month. I really do. And to say, if I was going to say, where do we pick the points up? I don't see maximum points for any of them 4 games the way we're playing at the moment. And the worst thing is that the beginning of November is the start of the FA Cup. And I'm hoping we don't get a non-league team away from home or something that's going to kill our confidence even more, because that could be. When I was looking at what would make the board make a reaction, or what would get a reaction, I think we budget to lose the FA Cup, don't we? Every year we budget to lose in the first round, drawn away from home. But we also know it does draw some extra income to potentially use in a transfer window if we do well. Is the FA Cup important for us this year?
That's a very interesting question. I think we might have to tackle that one in a couple of weeks after the draw's made, but yeah. Robert, he's made the point, why do we always start games slow and only look more like to score and attacking the chem flow? I think we've touched on that because the way we set up games, we set up to not lose games before we look to win them. It's a recurring theme, which is why a lot of people are upset. Michael Overall's got a few questions. First of all, he has said, what do we need more? A tactician, a psychologist, or a new team? Well, Michael, my answer is actually secret option number 4, Alexa Bliss. Because if we got Alexa Bliss, everything would be all right. No one would be moaning. Just parade her out before the kickoff, just wave at the crowd, maybe just do some of her gymnastics that she's really good at. No one would care about it. People could go home at 3:05 and be quite happy. What's the score? I don't know. Alexa did a few cartwheels, though. In all seriousness, what do we need more of? Tactician, psychologist, a new team. We can't get a new team, unfortunately. I do think a psychologist could be useful.
Yeah, it's B, isn't it? It's B. And we already have that, don't we, in Steven Sylvester, don't we? We already have that sort of option. It's done on an ad hoc basis. But yeah, we do have that. A tactician is basically a new manager, isn't it? Because tactician is basically, unless you bring in a totally different assistant manager or a director of football, or an old wise head. I just don't see that happening. It was refused last year by Neil Ardley. Eric said in the open meeting that we had at the end of last season that Neil Ardley had been offered to have somebody come in to help him, like a director of football or someone. He turned it down twice, I believe. So why would he accept it again? I think he's very much his own man, and if he want to do it on his own, he want to work it and get it sorted himself. Well, it's the right thing or not, I don't know, but I suppose B is the answer on that one.
Yeah, I'd agree. Someone that just sort of take the fear of failure away from us, because I think that's having the opposite effect. Michael also asks, who's responsible for our contracting policy? Do you mean on the stadium? Do you mean like... I know there are risks, but should we consider changing it, or at least being a bit more creative with it? I assume, Michael, you're talking about the deal where we get a lot of our players to sign 2-year contracts, don't we? That seems to be the standard for what we do for first-team players.
Yeah.
There are risks. Should we consider changing it? Yeah, I mean, Lyle was... I guess we have to, because look, the history tells you, doesn't it? Tom Elliott left for nothing, which was ridiculous. Lyle Taylor's left us for nothing.
Deji's going to leave us for nothing.
Deji's going to leave us for nothing. You can't be losing these players. This is how how you build over time is what the old Wimbledon would do. Would buy them cheap and sell them for lots and lots of huge profit, millions of pounds worth of profit. That's how we kept afloat. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the answer is. There's so many variables in this that I don't think we know enough about. That's the problem in terms of what players want to sign, what their agents will tell them to sign, whether 3-year deals are realistic for players, because their turnover in League One, I think, is quite high. Every club.
They are. And you're going to get stung sometimes, aren't you? Let's look at a couple of examples. So we bought Tom King on a year's loan. Technically, we might not play him. So we're paying money when we don't need to. but it's only a year, but they're chance you take. Cody McDonald, we had to pay off in the end, it looks like, from a 2-year deal in his last year. For whatever reason, didn't work out in the summer. So you can lose money as well. So as for all the, Lyle Taylors and Tom Elliott's and Jake Reeves, etc. examples, there is a flip side to it where you can get stung by having to long contract leave them.
And finally, for Michael Overall, does Andy Bartram's lack of end product cost us more than his other play gains us? Barch is such a difficult one. I really like Andy Bartram, but end product.
Yeah, I do, but head's always down, isn't it? He's really good at unsettling fullbacks and jinking in and out and stuff. But as soon as he gets the amount of times I've seen him get past his fullback on the byline, and he just doesn't get his head up. He should have more assists than what he does. But generally, works hard. Generally works hard, and I like it because there's a bit of. He's been here for a few years, a bit of continuity from the old team. But the end product isn't enough, and unfortunately, where we're not scoring many goals this season, or even where we're not scoring many goals, I think he's getting highlighted a little bit because people are asking what is he doing at the moment. Obviously, I don't think he's weighed in with an assist. I don't think yet, even this season.
No, we're looking at maybe a flick on away at Fleetwood for one, maybe, perhaps.
The faintest of flicks. I could have got a flick.
Yeah. Steady on. Barch, lack of end products is a problem for us, and whether he does enough defensively, we don't know. To be honest with you, options, we're just stuck for options. I think with Pinnock unable to play 90 minutes, an ongoing problem. Anyway, Greg Valentine, he was great back in the day. He was the Hammer Valentine. Used to have a figure 4 leg lock finisher, Intercontinental champion. He was. Will Ardley's reluctance to drop Trotosaurus and or change formation be his ultimate downfall? I think we've touched on it already, Greg. But yes is my answer. Will the board accept another relegation battle as progress? Well, first of all, on the Saws and Trotter, or Trotter and Saws, or Sotter and Tors, or whatever we call them, if I turn up on Saturday and it's Trotter and Saws, I'm convinced it will be because we're playing the team top of the league. Oh, I'm going to cry. Will the board accept another relegation battle as progress? The board, we don't know what the board wants. The only thing we get from the board is to finish 4 places above our position in the famed budget table. Now, there's a bit of doublespeak here, in my opinion, because basically what that's saying is that we can, if we have the worst budget in the league, finishing 1 place outside the relegation zone is success. That's what it's basically saying. That's why it's 4 places. Let's not kid ourselves here, okay? That's not a target. That's not so if we're 14th in the budget league, we're looking at perhaps a top 10 finish. That's not at all the logic behind that target setting. The target setting is basically kept at that minimum to say, we want to stay in the league. That's it. So I think the board will quite happily accept another relegation battle. And if we lose that relegation battle, I still don't know. Nobody knows. We need a bit of direction, I think, from our senior leaders here.
Yeah, and that's where the frustration is coming at the moment, because it's a great question. We just, you said it on Love Sport Radio on the weekend. We don't really actually know what his objective is. We don't really know. Yeah, we hear the 4 places extra in the league budget, but bearing in mind the budget table doesn't normally come out until Christmas. How do we know? It's unofficial. Accrington surely have the lowest budget in the league. Surely, they're rumoured to have the lowest budget in League 2 and still finish top. But do we do a benchmark off them? Because if you've done that, you're in trouble. Do you benchmark off Wickham? That sort of side of it. I don't know. I think my frustration, and I think a few other fans' frustration, is how silent the board are. Let's not forget we have lost 7 games in the last 9, and we lost 2 of those games against teams below us. To have nothing come out is, we may get something in the programme on Saturday, which hardly anybody reads, and I don't. It's crazy, isn't it? The programme notes at the moment, in my opinion, are not where things that should be. I don't know why paying extra £3 at a home game for a programme that's full of a lot of sponsorship or company promotions should be where you get the information. we need to hear something. You know, if it's a case that Eric comes out and goes, we're happy with Neil's recruitment, we believe he will work hard on a train pitch, and the squad will start showing their ability. Fine. Hey, look, if that's what he comes out with, then great. But have something. Don't hide behind. Let's not hide behind. Just don't hide. Come out and say something. That's my opinion, because at the moment fans are getting a little bit disgruntled purely by the lack of noise.
Yeah, lack of noise, which is afflicting many areas of the club right now. Yeah, very frustrating. We don't know. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I can't add anything to it. I can only merely agree with you on those issues. Moving on, Dan, at AFCW Dan on Twitter, he has asked Plough Lane, what's it really going to be like? It might actually put off a fair chunk of us long travelling fans due to poor parking around the stadium. Will this be an issue? Are we happy with a brand new stadium only 1/5 finished? I think Eric has said this himself. We need to, and to be honest with you, we haven't done it yet either, which we really do need to get a move on. We need to limit expectations on what this stadium is going to be like when we move in. I think in our heads, when we first thought about getting our own stadium, we all thought of Brighton, and we all have that picture in our head. It's nothing like that. Going to be nothing like that. It's going to be a temporary stadium, basically. Of course, we're going to love it. It's going to be ours. It's going to be in Wimbledon. It's going to be all we wanted. But what you don't want to do is for people to see it being built and looking at it going, is that it? And at the moment, I think that's the reaction a lot of people will give, because I don't know how many people are getting the message that this is going to be a fully complete 20,000-seater stadium on day one.
Yeah, but then we're a victim of our communication. It goes back to communication, doesn't it? The only time, if you are a Don's Trust member or you go to Don's Trust meetings, you've probably got more chance of seeing what's going on. The problem you've got is there's only about 80 people that attend these meetings, where Eric does an update on the stadium, and he did a good update last one. But I didn't go, but I heard a lot about it. But apart from that, I don't really know where that information has been put, and it does concern me still that we keep using on our Twitter feed this picture that was done ages and ages ago of Wimbledon players in a massive stadium that's like a round bowl. That's not what it's going to look like. So why are we still using that? Because again, that's going to cause a little bit of, that's not what I thought it was going to be like. For me, hey, look, I'm so happy we're going to be moving back into Wimbledon, because it's been ages since I've seen a game at Plough Lane, and I can't wait. But I'm a realist. I sort of know that it's not going to be at Brighton. Of course, it's not. But we have a lot of new fans, and new fans nowadays expect grounds to go up like Brighton's, and not like the Arsenal's, because that's a big stadium, but expect a new luxurious state-of-the-art stadiums. Ours is not. Ours is going to be on a budget. But yeah, we do need to get a bit better out there, and also it's been still lacking in communication or engagement of fans of what they want, or what would they, what options are there.
I mean, Stephen Adams, at Stephen J. Adams, big fan of the wrestling. He's actually replied there saying, we're happy with what we have, with whatever we get moving home. One of the big reasons why we started again, everything can be done and overcome. I think there's a point with the parking. I know it's a concern. I know my dad, for one, has that sort of doubt in his back of his head about the new stadium and getting there and what have you, and certainly getting home afterwards. Steve makes the point, companies around will hire out car parks. Portsmouth the other day, it was about a couple of months ago now, we parked up in a local school that had opened their playground to park on. So there are possibilities. It's still quite a while for the future, but it's a genuine concern, I think, Dan, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll just say, I spoke to Joe Palmer, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was already having discussions with local schools and businesses about making sure that they would free up space, etc., for parking. Do you know what? Parking doesn't really concern me, because I think there will be enough local parking. I do agree with the fact of access and getting out of Plough Lane, because it's one road. So if the club are sensible, they will put loads of good deals on at the club in terms of after the game with 2 for 1 drinks and stuff, and just get people to stay behind and then go out when it's nice and quiet.
Lee Finch.
Oh dear.
At Chips Finch. Bear in mind how late we are running, Stu. Why is everyone so scared of voicing an opinion against the club? I'll tell you why, because the club doesn't want to hear criticism.
The clubs, yeah,
okay.
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody likes to hear criticism if it's not presented in a constructive way. So there's two ways of looking at it. There is a way of delivering criticism, which will then be listened to and debated and discussed and what have you. If you're just going to slag abuse, of course, the club are quite right maybe to say, do you know what, we're not even going to engage with you if you're going to speak to us like that. However, as a wider point, I do think there are occasions where points have been raised perfectly, validly and politely and acceptably, and people have felt that perhaps they haven't got a response that they thought was appropriate on that occasion. And this is all very anecdotal, but things that people we've experienced and people we know that have experienced, things like charging for season tickets, for example, in previous years, has come up, and just felt that the way it was dealt with wasn't great. And then you voice these things, and there's a reason or there's an excuse, and it. I don't know if it's harsh and maybe it's a perception, but does anyone ever actually hold their hands up and say, "Yeah, we got that wrong"?
Well, it's a good point. Yeah, Lee's. I know where Lee's coming from on this, but as a club, we don't really. The football club board will probably go, well, do you know what? It's not for us to engage with fans. We have a Don's Trust, which is their Don's Trust board that should be communicating and then feeding it back to us. That's what they'll probably come out with saying, and there might be some truth in that. But we're a fan-zone club that doesn't really go to our fans to really ask what they want. I've had many moans about the catering and match day experience, which really does depress me when I go to Kings Meadow. It really does, because I go to away grounds and I'm jealous of the experience that I have at away grounds. I think, wow, this is what you can do for, getting to the ground early. You've got some entertainment, you've got a decent music system, you can get food competitively priced at, and value for money and stuff like that. But we never ask, we never communicate, we never ask, we just assume, and that's how it goes, isn't it? But I think, I was saying about scared, I think, as a podcast, you and I are very careful in how we put feedback. We know that a club can listen to this at any time, so we make sure that anything we really say is constructive and balanced, because it has to be. So I think you're right. If you're just going to go and slag off the club, then they're not going to respond. But I do wish there was more forums. I think at the moment, with the new ground coming up, I don't think the engagement is a bit poor. I think with the way the club's doing, we could do some real sort of like bonding with the manager in terms of meet the manager and things like that. So many things we can do, but we do hide. But then we also, the fans don't like moaning because we're a fan-zone club and we've got volunteers and we've got a board that are stretched, and those are the things that we give them grace for, because yes, we do know that they do jobs that are difficult and not enough of them.
Yeah, we do accept that situation totally. I think there's... when I say what I said earlier about perhaps the club not listening to criticism and whatever, of course, that it's sort of an anecdotal thing when I say that. And a lot of this will be. And I think if the club are listening, or if Eric's listening or whatever, he could quite happily turn around to me and I hold my hands up and say, look, why do you get this feeling? What's this based on? Where's your evidence to perhaps suggest this? And I'd say, fair enough, I can't present you with a portfolio of evidence that suggests this is the case. But the sentiment about the fans feeling like they're not being listened to, fans feeling like complaints or criticisms fall on deaf ears, it's not come from thin air. They're getting it from somewhere. If people are moved enough to be complaining, and people quite vociferously complaining to us, and we know that they have done to members of Don's Trust Board and what have you, they're not making it up. It's something they genuinely feel. And you can either write it off and say, sorry, no, you're wrong, or you can sort of think, right, well, what's going wrong here? Where is this opinion or this attitude come from? And let's try and fix it and sort it out. And yes, it's not easy because of the nature of our club and the way we're run and set up, and we're on a skeleton staff and what have you. But I think there is a general feeling people feel like they're not listened to.
Yeah.
And the point about the skeletal staff and the way we run our football club, that brings us to a whole wider point about how far the model we have, how far it can actually go. But that's perhaps a conversation for another day.
But I also think we're a little bit of a victim of our own success in a way as well. So, you know, one of some of the moans that I hear, and some of the moans that I have, is that we don't see enough of the football club board, or do they really know what the problems are on match day? And the match day experience is not good, but you'll never see a football club board member out, you know, away. So they're either in hospitality or in the president's lounge or meeting board members, or you know, that sort of thing. But have we become a victim of our own success? Because actually, the fan zone model that we want and what we had back in the conference days, you can't really get in a League One club, because yes, you have to do hospitality, you have to get, but dare say it, richer fans in, because actually what you want is the fans that have a bit more money to put more money in, because of course, you know, the budgets to get a budget that we want means you have to have money coming in. That's common sense, isn't it? One of the fears I have is moving to Plough Lane could detach us even more from our fans, because all of a sudden we're going to have a big stadium. You know, if we don't know what the plans are, but if we had, for say, a players' lounge or a big presence lounge where we didn't see the players, or we become even more detached from the players, like most league clubs are, we're quite lucky that we have that model. I fear Plough Lane could make it even worse, and maybe that is the problem. We just want it to be like it always used to be, but it probably can't be that way now.
I think it's a good point or a good time to point out that the things we're talking about here right now, right at this instance, we're talking about them because these are the things that have been put to us by fans of the club. I don't think I can stress that enough. So it's not us just turning up to record a podcast one day thinking, let's talk about this, blah, blah, blah. These are the things that people are saying to us right now. On that note, Stephen Adams, like we said, at Stephen J. Adams says, when the majority of the Don's Trust board believe all is cool, it's very difficult to say. I once taught a boy that won an award because he sang a song. School is cool. Just that's a cool story, bro. I know. No one cares, do they?
No.
But anyway, there is no disconnect. Oh yeah, because the Don's Trust board believe there is no disconnect within the supporter base. Yeah, there were some Don's Trust board meeting minutes of quite recent, where that seemed to be the prevailing opinion of some, maybe just over 50% of the Don's Trust board, with some notable exceptions. But if you go on the Don's Trust website, you can read through all the minutes and find out. Head in sand syndrome, or just plain out of touch, to which Justin Homewood at JustinH_86, they are very out of touch, just plain ignorant.
But again, are we also, yeah, sorry.
That's the view of fans. That's what they feel. That's what they're saying.
But also, are we just inexperienced? Because we've always done well. You know, the Don's Trust board as a whole, we know a few people that have been on there over the years, and let's be honest with you, you and I could have been on that Don's Trust board back in the days of the not the CCL, but the Rymans, because realistically, you want to crest of a wave. The club was successful. No one really questioned what the Don's Trust board did, because realistically, the club were doing well. Eric was doing a great job with Ivor and Dave Childs, and never got questioned because nothing went wrong. Are we just inexperienced at dealing with negativity and dealing with conflict? Because actually, they've never had to. So, are they burying their heads in the sands because actually they just don't know how to deal with it? You know, we've got a manager now that is really in trouble. You know, 7 defeats in 9 tells you that. But what do the Don's Trust board do about it? They don't know, because they've never been in that situation before, and unfortunately, the experience is not there. I think it's sometimes being fair to that, but the only way you find out what the fans feel is get out and see them. And with the Don's Trust elections coming up very soon, we should have hopefully some new candidates that maybe might want to do that as well.
Going back to football with Andy Dixon at AndyDixon975. Darius and Bayo featured in an excellent win for Wickham on Saturday. Both could still be Wimbledon players. Is Neil's inability to long-term manage the type of characters that can dig in and get you results ultimately going to cost us our League One place? I think we've touched on it already in what we said, and I think we agree that it's a pain in the backside. And I think Neil was too quick to get rid of those characters in previous years, your Don Polions, your Dean Parrots, and what have you. I think it's a big mistake, so I'd agree, and I'd have Darius and Bayo Akinfenwa back in our team tomorrow, if that was a possibility. I think the key thing of his question is it ultimately going to cost us our League One place? I mean, Stu, if you were to place a bet now, if you were to name 4 teams that you think will get relegated at the end of the season, would our name feature in those 4 teams?
Yeah, massively. And I'm biased.
Well, you can't massively fit. There's only one place. I mean, you can't take.
Hey, look, I'm biased, and I always see the best in Wimbledon. But at the moment, I just I think I said the other day, we've seen the Port Vales and the Chesterfields and the Berries come down to our place, and we've seen relegation threatened teams, and you see signs, lack of goals, lack of leaders, young team, naive team. That's what I see. So I'd be hypocritical if I said that I see a team that isn't that. It's not. At the moment, we've got a lot to do.
Matt Eustace at MR Eustace 98 agreed, said, brilliant point. I'm a student studying in Portsmouth, and when we play away and I can't attend, I sometimes go down to Fratton Park. Barry Fuller was exceptional for Gillingham last weekend. Can't overlook players without strong replacements lined up. Sorry, I should do it in circle style here. Barry Fuller was exceptional for Gillingham last weekend. Fire emoji. Can't overlook players without strong replacements lined up. Yeah, I think we all thought Barry was one season too many, but then hindsight 2020, maybe where we find ourselves, when we thought at the end of last season, didn't we, that we wanted to build, to progress and improve this season. It hasn't quite worked out that way. So you could argue that someone like Barry would have been someone that might have done a job for us this season, but
yeah, and
it's impossible to know.
Yeah, hindsight's a great thing, and do you know what? It was in my opinion, it's still the right decision to get rid of Barry Fuller. We just unfortunately didn't bring in the experience we needed. I'll just quickly go back to Andy's question about Darius and Bayo. I still think they're the right decisions. I know hindsight's a great thing they're doing at Wycombe, but let's not forget, Darius was injured a lot last season and started off the season injured at Wycombe. He's only just got back into that team now. And when Bayo left, Bayo had his weakest season. He was a super sub, and we were paying him a hell of a lot of money for really not a lot. So I still think it was the right decisions, and I think that Barry Fuller was the right decision. I think if we went now and go, Nuani made a wrong decision, I think we'd all be hypocritical, because we all called it and said we needed to get someone a bit younger than Barry. We just didn't think it was going to be a 20-year-old.
Running Womble at Running Womble said, what would persuade more people to watch ladies' matches? Now, we're going to hold our hands up a little bit here, actually, because we haven't been covering the ladies as much this season on the podcast. Just escaped our attention, if we've been honest with you. It's really bad of me in particular, so I apologise for that. And we will start doing so from next week. But what would persuade more people to watch the ladies' matches? I think it's really difficult for women's football, which is increasing in popularity at the top level, and it takes a little while. It's going to take a little while for that to happen, and then it's going to take a lot longer, I think, for that to trickle down to some of the lower levels. The big problem you've got is that when you're running concurrently with the men's football season, people don't want to give up their whole weekends to football. So if you're going to watch Wimbledon on Saturday, which is tradition and what you've been doing for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades, then going, even if it's free, just the time involved means that people don't want to give their second day of the weekend to football, if you know what I mean. Women's football has got a lot. Men's football has got such a ridiculous head start that I don't know if women's football will ever catch up, if I'm being honest with you. It's going to be difficult. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything the team can do more than they're currently doing, to be honest with you. I guess people like ourselves, yes, we need to improve our coverage. We were trying to do bits and pieces last season. We were very unfortunate with on a couple of occasions when we booked in to do some filming and some recording down at ladies' games, and schedules changed and fixtures were postponed and what have you. So that was very unfortunate. We hope to try and do that again this season at some point. But yeah, other than that, yeah, we just try and promote it as much as we can, to be honest with you.
It's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because when you think about ladies' football, it's the most popular it's ever been. We've got a successful England team doing very well. If you look at the Wimbledon, I'll say the ladies and the junior teams, young ladies and that want to play football. It's our national sport, and that's transcending to to the ladies' side of it. And if you look at football nowadays, there's lots of ladies that go to football. It's also a men's game. How do you make it easier? I've always thought for some while, why not play the football? Why not play their games at the home stadium? Why does it have to be, the days of pitches that hold up very well? Why can it not be? We've scored an own goal this year because we have the Chelsea ladies. So how do the Wimbledon ladies compete when we've got the Chelsea ladies playing on a professional budget, our own stadium, or the stadium we now rent?
That's because well, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Because they bought the stadium.
But, when we went back to Plough Lane, random think, why could the ladies not play at the stadium? Why could they not play before the men's game? I know the pitch might struggle, but the pitches nowadays are the best they've ever been. But I suppose it's making the ladies' game more accessible to the fans of, one, putting the stadium that the first team plays in. The budget's always going to be the problem, isn't it? Because you've got teams like Man City and Chelsea chucking crazy money at a ladies' game. So we're probably going to struggle with the levels, but I wouldn't say the amount of ladies that want to play football and are playing football at the moment must mean there's some market. It's just trying to see how you bring them in.
Rob Large I'm going to try and get his Twitter handle, Gorfman Rob, I think, says, explaining that it's far more entertaining than men's football, less cheating, less play acting, and a lot more football actually played. Fair enough, Rob. Running one says you couldn't have put that any better. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. No, I think we're done with that one for the time being, to be honest with you, but fair point. I've just had a thought, Stu. Do you know what would help the ladies' team?
What?
Alexa Bliss.
I wonder when that was coming.
Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch would be fine. Peyton Royce would be great.
But would she struggle without a script?
Without a script. So ignorant of the art of professional wrestling. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response.
Move on to goal line and make an attempt to score a goal.
That's why your managerial career never took off. Gary Wilkes at Gary_M_Wilkes. Neil is quick to rinse the squad when he feels it hasn't performed. Why does it never occur to him to rinse his coaching staff and try to upgrade them as well? Are we even sure our fitness coach is League One standard? Ouch. This is a really difficult one, I think, for us, because coaches and training, what goes on behind the scenes, we have nothing we can judge it, really, have we? We don't know what they do, really. We don't see what they do. All I'd say is, for a variety of reasons, and many times they'd move on and forge their own managerial careers, but Alex Ferguson was very, very successful. And I know you might sound as daft to compare us to Manchester United and the best team of my lifetime, basically, but Alex Ferguson would freshen up his assistant manager and his coaching staff around him fairly regularly, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So I guess there is an argument that that's being successful. There are other managers that always like working with the same person as their number two, but then the flip side to that is no one was ever as successful over a long period of time than Alex Ferguson was. Really difficult to answer, but yeah, I mean, you wonder if that question has been asked, if the Football Club Board have asked that question, and maybe we could ask the Football Club Board that question via the Don's Trust. I don't know.
Well, I know Noardi said that during the summer they all critiqued each other, didn't they, on how they performed and stuff like that. So I think they do it during the summer. To do it during the season, hey, look, to call out your management team, your support function, would be suicidal, really, wouldn't it? In today's world, you really would be. Yeah, you really would be on the way to the end, wouldn't you? Neil Cox and Neil Wiley are very have known each other for years, but obviously played together at Watford, built up a friendship, and I suppose trust each other. And at the moment, Neil Wiley's going to need people like Neil Cox and Simon Bassey to really be supportive, because at the moment he's going to feel like he's on his own. And we all know, Neil Wiley takes defeat as bad as anyone does, and it shows on his face, and that sometimes it's a problem, because it really does show. It's too transparent, and really you needed Neil Coxes of the world that just to bring him back up to where he needs to be, and I'm sure they do. But I wouldn't. Hey, look, I doubt if he's ever going to call out his management team. The Sir Alex Ferguson situation. Yeah, you're right. He had Steve McLaren, didn't he? Then Michael Carrick and Ryan Giggs, and he did a lot.
Yeah, Carlos Queiroz and all these.
Yeah,
Brian Kidd. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Brian Kidd as well. So, yeah, it did work. It worked on a bigger scale. Hey, it's an interesting point. Whether it's going to happen, no.
We're running so late. It's like an hour and 10 minutes we've been recording, but I'm just going to I think we just keep going, Stu, to be honest with you, because I think there's not a great deal more to go, and I think it's only fair.
Yep.
But I think a lot of points might start to be being repeated now. So, MP Baz at MP Baz. Why don't we recruit from within more? Considering Neil comes from that background, surely we should be bringing more through in terms of youth team players. Yeah, I mean we've got quite a few in the first team squad or listed in the squad. Matchday squad might differ. I definitely think that there is growing pressure on Neil. A lot would be relieved if on Saturday people were arriving at the stadium and they're finding that Joe McDonald's in goal, Toby Sibica's at right back, Will Nightingale's at centre half, and Anthony Hartigan's in centre midfield, I think that immediately will help them out a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see. Chris Long at AFC Womble Long. Why do we struggle to get our own keeper? Always alone. Surely it's such an important position. Joe is doing well though. Yeah, I think we got George Long in. George Long was really Kelly Roos was alone, wasn't he?
Yeah. Also, some other Twitter warrior was alone as well, wasn't they? As well.
Of course he was. Yeah.
Well, I suppose the argument is the last permanent goalkeeper we signed was Ryan Clark. And look how that went for whatever reason. I think there's other things to that. I don't mind a lone goalkeeper, to be honest with you. I think you've got a lot of Championship and Division Premiership clubs who stockpile players, let alone goalkeepers. A lot about 4 goalkeepers. Kelly Roos is still on the bench for Derby. So he's obviously doing all right there. I think we got spoiled with George Long. We really did. I think we just found a really, really good goalkeeper. But they are around. Connor Ripley, who was at Oldham, now at Accrington, not surprised Accrington are doing so well. I think it's just a cheap option. I think you can pick up some really good goalkeepers for a decent price. Tom King at the moment just hasn't worked out, but there's nothing to say that it won't in the future.
Next 2 questions. I think they tie in some of the research you've been doing. We've touched on already. So Richard Brown at Crazy Gang Brown. We don't have enough pace. We are a poor quality team, therefore at least have someone strong like Akinfenwa and some pacey clown like Aziz up front causing trouble. Sotter and Traws are paceless. Yeah, absolutely. Pick the fastest 11 and ditch the lazy ones. Kick and chase might work. We don't really have the pace in the squad. That is a big, big weakness for us, and sort of ties into Matt Eustace's point. Again, at MR Eustace 98, he's come back with Neil seems really hyped about the return of Hansen from injury, who definitely got no pace. Yeah, we had a poor loan spell with Berry and has only scored 1 in his last 38 appearances. We need goals, and I question he's the man to bring them. So what we're looking at there, Stu, is two issues of players that we currently don't have. One, not a goal scorer. One, a big target man that's going to help players like Joe Pickett score goals, but alternatively someone that's going to stretch teams and get in behind. You could argue Jervis is our pace, but doesn't really seem to work as a centre forward. He's more of a winger. Lots and lots of problems. The absence of Hansen as well. He's very excited, not for goal return, I don't think, but for what he can maybe bring to the team, because we are not creating enough. And this all sort of ties in a long-winded way to some of the research you've been looking at assists and goals and things like that. For example, who's got our most assists this season?
Well, yeah, the most assists is just 2, so nothing to write home about is Perrington at left back. He's got 2 assists. Obviously, goal-wise, we know Joe Piggott's got 6 goals. But you look below that, and then you're looking at Wagstaff and Kwesi with just 2 each. So,
and doesn't that tie in? So this is my point, basically. The team that's struggling to score goals, we don't create enough because we don't have enough pace. Our left back has got our most assists this season, one of which shouldn't even count because it was a huge mistake from the opposite centre half. And the other one is, does our goal tally and the assist count start to improve once Hansen comes back in, because he's a player up front that we can work off, and we just don't have that player present.
I know, we just don't know, do we? Because the problem is that the stats don't lie. So we
that was a song by Shakira, wasn't it?
Always, I might say hashtag facts are facts. But you've got to look at it. Hansen, hasn't scored a goal for 40 odd games. Assist wise, he creates assists, but at the moment, let's be fair, we've got to get him back on the pitch. So, it's all right us saying that, once Hansen comes back, he can do this, he can do that. Where's the guarantee of that? Can we guarantee that he can play? Can we guarantee he's going to play 5 games or 10 games back to back? Is he going to get enough consistency in his game? Because he's not going to come back and all of a sudden hit the ground running. He keeps getting, picked up a knock in pre-season, picked up a knock early on. I don't want to be sitting here and going, when he comes back, he's going to hit the ground running, because I don't believe that. And that is the concern. We've got 2 forwards that have spent more time injured than they have playing this year in Kwesi and Hansen. So, we have major problems up front. Jervis is a wide player. He's on loan. Luton didn't want him for whatever reason. We may well find out when Luton comes to town at the end of the month. But Yeah, up front we've got problems. We don't score enough goals, and that puts your pressure on your defence. So there's wholesale problems up front.
The more we talk, the more depressing it gets. Right. Some very quick ones to run through. Adam Scott at Adam Linus Scott. A close look at the ladies and girls section. I think he's asking for us to do this in future. Interested to see if the girls get some exposure for the great work being carried out. Yep, as we've discussed earlier, hands up, my fault for not doing that more on the podcast this season. We will look to do that as the season progresses. Will GJ at Willie the Womble should follow, or should we follow, I guess, in the footsteps of big clubs like Arsenal, Arsenal aren't a big club, and set up our own pre-season tournament featuring teams that only have yellow and blue in their home strip, i.e. Boca Juniors or Lokomotiv Leipzig. Yeah, why not? Shrewsbury and Mansfield. You got nothing to add to that, Stu? No,
Kit's your speciality. Yeah, Kit's your speciality. Blue and yellow is. I would always love that.
Who was it? Who was the team that Liverpool beat in the UEFA Cup final years ago? 5-4. That played in yellow and blue.
Parma?
What was that? No, it wasn't Parma. It was like
Parma got an old like a blue and red, yellow.
They do, yeah. I'm gonna look into this because they only got into like they were a small team. Who was it? It was a Spanish team. I swear it was. Anyway, I'll look into this. Sorry, because what I'll do is I'll ask you another question.
Okay.
Finna at Finna 3. If we didn't win promotion in 2016, would we still be in League 2 today? Yes, because we'd have sold Akinfenwa. Whatever happened.
Hey, look, I'm not one to look back. Neil Hardy had a great season that year. Got us into that mindset. We had good subs, good team, and yeah, we were excellent that year. So we got promoted. It's the same argument as I had when people say, should we fear relegation? Yeah, because we worked so hard that season to get up. I don't want to give it away. You know, it was a magnificent season, and we were on track. You know, well ahead of track. But yeah, we deserve to be on League One on merit. So yes, where I want to stay.
Alaves. I was going to say Alaves. No one's going to believe me when I say that now.
Alaves was the name in my head. Barcelona player or PSG player?
Alaves.
Alves.
I didn't get that at all.
No. So it's one that we've been running so long now. So
we have over 148 episodes. Oh, you mean today? Sorry, yeah, an hour and 15 minutes. Pete, we're very nearly we're final for you. Pete Walter at Pete_Walter. What's the truth about our budget in comparison with other League One teams? Hearing conflicting opinions on forums. Like you said earlier, we don't actually. This is perhaps the flaw in our planning. We don't find this out for a number of months yet. The rumours seem to be putting us about 18th or whatever. I don't know. No idea. £100,000, a lot of money to have spent on 3 players, two of which barely play. Read that into your will. But Stu, that's what we think anyway, don't we? We think we're in the bottom 8.
Yeah, they normally get published, I believe, around Christmas. I would have thought I know Eric, obviously with the extra investment we had from the money from potential Plough Lane income, I think moved us up a little bit, but it's all relative on what other teams have done whatever. But you know, there was rumours last year that Shrewsbury had the third weakest. Sorry, they had the third from bottom budget last year, and look, they got third place, didn't they? So Accrington always, I think it's in it. One thing I would say, it's been interesting the silence of budget talk this year. So that suggests to me we know we're doing not too bad compared to former years.
Robert Adamo at 22 Tigrolino, I think that is. AFC Wimbledon is potentially rather a League 2 than a League 1 club right now. Yeah, I tend to agree. I am of the opinion that a relegation to League 2 wouldn't be nearly as dramatic as generally assumed. I agree. You do not want to get relegated. You do not stay back, but it is not the disaster of epic proportions that people are talking about. But anyway, on the contrary, playing top of League 2 and with some luck getting a promotion whilst playing our first season at Plough Lane could give the club a big lift. Do you agree, or is that too big of a gamble? Stu, I think this is a great question. I think Brighton, sorry to use them as an example, but didn't they get promoted into the Championship in their final season at the Withdean? So they kicked off at the new stadium, the Amex Stadium, first game in the Championship. And I think a lot of people are still looking at that and going, that could be us. That could be exactly the scenario we face. I don't think that's likely. He's got a point. If we were to go down, I don't think we're one of those clubs that's going to fall and then fall again. I think Neil Ardley, if we were to get relegated, I think Neil Ardley would keep us quite happily safe in League Two the following season. But you don't want to go back. That's the problem. You just don't want to take that step backwards because, as you say, in reality, the truth of the matter is we don't know, and you'd rather not take that risk.
Yeah, and I think it is a risk. You know, like I said just a minute ago, we worked really hard to get promoted, and I don't want to give that up. You know, it's not a disaster if we get relegated, and I don't believe we would do a Barnet or Chesterfield, and well, not Barnet, sorry, we'd do a Chesterfield and go down a couple because that would just be disastrous. But I suppose look, we're in League One on merit. We deserve to be there. We stayed up for the last 2 years through Neil Ardley's efforts along with the players, and I suppose what we're going for this year, get relegated, not great, but let's not go down without a fight, and that's half the worry at the moment, isn't it, about the fight to stay up?
Yeah. So, I mean, in answer to your question, Roberto, I would say it's too much of a gamble, and you want, at all costs, like Stu says, to keep your place for now. But if it were to be the situation that we did go down, I don't think it's not going to be the end of the world. But anyway, David at Chudley Cannons, what's your favourite chant song for a current player? David's not been listening to the show. We did this earlier, David. My word, honestly. I think it's the same guy that asked the question on Facebook.
Possibly.
I think that's definitely what's happened there. Right, these are the last two, Stu, and I've saved these till last because I think it's the best place to finish. I'm going to read them both, and let's just discuss it for 5 minutes or so. Dom Black at Dom Black 03 starts off with why hasn't the board just sacked Neil Ardley? We're going downhill. Opposed to that, Joe Moga at Joe Moga. Tell us what it is, Joe. Moga. Why do people consistently write Neil off when he's not failed us before? It's not been pretty, but he's got the job done every time.
Yeah. Valid arguments.
I mean, the Dom's point there, why isn't the board sacked Neil Ardley? Yes, this is the view of an increasing number of people. I have gone on record and I still maintain that I am Ardley in. I recognise I am in the minority. And I think I'm in quite the minority now.
Well, we're not too sure, are we? We know social media. Hey, look, the people that want Neil Ardley sacked are the ones that are going to be the loudest because at the moment, the ones that want to support him probably know at the moment that they haven't really got enough. There's not much for them to say to really back up because the stats at the moment suggest heavily that we're struggling. So they're going to be quiet at the moment. I agree, Joe, you can't argue with that. He has kept us up twice. And there's nothing to say that he wouldn't do for a third time. I think what a lot of fans are seeing, though, this is becoming literally like a Groundhog Day. And this was the same last year. And can or should we? Sometimes you want progress. You want to see something changing. And I think there's a few things in terms of recruitment that are just becoming the same old mistakes. And that's a problem. I suppose the answer why the board not going to sack him, that's because we have a board that stick by their managers. He's coming up to the 6-year anniversary, I believe now, isn't he? I think I was looking. I was looking actually his win percentage. He's had 319 games now, up into including Plymouth, and it's got a 33% win average. So, he's done a good job with us. So, the weekend I was very much angry, thinking, "Hey, look, this is probably as far as we can go." This week, I'm a little bit like I think the thing is with Neil Ardley, I think people have the utmost respect for him, and he is a generally good guy of football, and everyone really, really loves having him as manager. And people don't want to see him go through this. I think that's the problem. The more hard-nosed fans will just go, "No, it's a job. It doesn't really matter if he's got connection with the club. Doesn't matter what he did all the other seasons. Let's just get rid." I'll give you an example. I was saying to you before we went and started recording. Chris Kinnear at Dover has had a great career, a great time with Dover, got them into the playoffs when they should never been anywhere near of it, won one game out of 14 this season, and they've sacked him. So they've showed no sentiment in that. Our board are a little bit different, and sometimes that should be respected, and we should be thankful of that. We just need to see what the board think and what they're going to do.
Absolutely. Well said. I think that's the best place to finish it for now. We'll try and clock in at just under an hour and a half. I don't know how we're going to manage this, Stu, but I did promise at the start of the show we would have Neil Coxless pairs, so I suppose we should do that. But I must say, thank you very much for all your questions. We have got through them all, I believe, and answered them as much as we can. There's so much to talk about right now that I can't hand on heart say we've answered any, really. I don't think anyone really knows the answers, or given an overall answer on the current situation that we're in. But I think the main key point we'd agree with is, yes, we probably need to hear a little bit more from the club in terms of what they're expecting, so we can perhaps align our thoughts and feelings with those and judge a little bit more, have a little bit more informed judgment perhaps on the whole Neil Ardley situation as it is. But no one, as you say, Stu, quite right, I don't think anyone wants to see Neil be going through this pressure as it stands. It's very harsh on him. He is a good guy. But anyway, Neil Coxless pairs, no time to really think about these too much, so I'll be very, very quick, Stu. Just the first answer that pops into your head, if you can remember.
Yep.
These are just random ones. First one, early 90s striker signed from Millwall who never scored for us in 28 games. Do you know this? Left to join Shrewsbury Town, sorry?
Steve Amprobus.
Oh, very good. Pop-punk Millennium Trio famously sung That's What I Go to School For and The Year 3000.
Oh. Year 3000. Oh. Amprobus. I can't think what they're called. No.
Amprobus.
I know, and I'm thinking... No, I can't think what they're called. I can remember, I can sing the song to myself, but that's not a pretty sight.
Not really.
Or pretty sound.
Or pretty sound. Steve Anthrobusted.
Ah, damn them. Yes.
Midfielder signed after a sustained period in non-league, most notably Gloucester City, who would later play for scummy Watford before going back into non-league.
Steve Torboys?
Steve Torboys, very good. And 1987 pop song by Sabrina.
That's Steve Torboys.
Yeah, there was more to
Boys,
it.
Boys.
Yeah, Steve, I'll give you it. Steve Torboys, Boys.
Who can ever forget that video?
I've never seen it, I'm too young.
Yeah.
Irritating 90s song by the band Rednecks. Very irritating song. Like Redneck, I can't really... there's no more to it than that.
No, I don't know.
No, okay. Well, the second half is the manager for our majority of our Premier League run.
Joe Kinnear.
Yep, so it's something Joe Kinnear.
Cotton Eye Joe Kinnear.
Yeah, well done. Very perfect. And then finally, you won't know this because this is a wrestling one for the fans that love the Graps. Brother Nero. You won't know the answer to that. And the second half is the centre half who once went a whole season without being booked.
Chris Perry?
Not Chris Perry, the other one.
Dean Blackwell.
Dean Blackwell. So it's Jeff Hardy was the answer to the first one. It comes together as Jeff Hardine Blackwell.
Ah.
Job done for this week.
Cool.
And we would preview Portsmouth, we're not going to. Just a quick prediction, Stu, just a scoreline. Top of the league they are.
2-0 Pompey.
Okay. I would say we'll get a result. It'll be 0-0. Music quiz. Last week it was In a Room by Dodgy. Thank you very much to the people that responded to that one. And a big shout out to Stuart Rolfe at Oldo Grolf and Dazza Womble at Dazza Womble and Terry Westgate at Terry Westgate, who all correctly identified In a Room by Dodgy. Again, at 9YRS Podcast on Twitter or 9YRS at may14.co.uk with your answer to this week's intro song. Our exit song, which you're just about to start hearing, is These Fine Gentlemen. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Check them out, thesefinegentlemen.com. And that is it. Updates from the Portsmouth game on our social media at 9YRS Podcast. The AFC Wimbledon Business Club this week will be drawing caricatures with former Coventry City left-back David Burrows. We'll be back next Thursday with a look at that Portsmouth game. Love Sport Radio at 8 p.m. this Sunday with somebody. We don't know who yet. Thank you very much again for all your questions. We hope you've enjoyed the show this week. Thank you for joining me, Stu.
No problem.
And in super quick time, because you can tell how quickly my voice is going, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week with film reviews and a review of The Circle, of course. See you then. No, speak to you then.
Lord, how I wish those days were mine. And they'll sing about smoking in the glory days, chasing the ones they got away. Lord, I could spend this whole damn night dreaming about the sweeter time. you got your high school sweetheart. They're breaking all the rules. They're fogging up their